Let me tell you like why I know that was presented, but I built a 7-figure agency when I was doing like my master's degree in Glasgow. So that was like just a side hustle that suddenly turned into an agency. I think anyone who has had an agency didn't ever dream to have an agency. I think you just end up having an agency when you're a good marketer and don't have a product. But you suddenly start to like doing it once you start working with great people and then you don't want to leave them. I've worked with some brands that you may recognize. Carnivore Snacks was a brand that a lot of people knew. Perfect YT, one of our brands, G-Pen, Central, Pulsetto, the Guitar Institute, and others. We're a featured founder. We're a platinum Klaviyo agency. This means we're very closely with Klaviyo. And also last year, the named CEO of the year for email agencies. And a fun fact about engaged recently in Iceland, so it's a good space if anyone is considering or giving suggestions to someone. So that's about me. Here's why retention is important, which I have a replica like laptop here. But the ad space progressively gets more and more expensive. This is a known fact. Meta reported as well, and Google typically about 15% a year, and for a good reason. Most of us try to push prices every single year, be it inflation or tariffs or anything else. So really what that means is that the brands that are at the bottom are not really increasing their spend, have really 3 to 4 years to compete, especially if they rely only on acquisition, which makes retention even more important. Cookieless world. We've been talking about living without cookies for a very, very long time. It's a world where people know that we have the technology to personalize, but we don't really have the technology to track as accurately as we used to in email, being mostly Apple updates. It's a very saturated space. There's a huge competition. Everyone is trying to copy everyone. So every time you're relying on doing what others do or mimicking the same strategies online, it's a race to the bottom, and it's very hard to stay consistent. And also, there's a huge discount culture in email. I think it's almost synonymous, like spam, spiced ham in Monty Python, and it was associated with getting something that you don't want, but you get it anyways because that's the only thing that you can get. So I actually wrote the thesis on what makes email not spam in a very simple terms. And the TLDR is that you treat it like a channel. You communicate directly with people and you really emphasize a one-on-one relationship with all of these people. So that's why we actually try not to go a bit against discounts, and then also the customer fatigue of getting the same emails, getting through the noise, and people getting 150 emails a day. So how do you make really an email stick? How do you really get people to remember that message? Well, here's what we'll cover today. That's essentially why we're here. Here's what we'll cover. I'll break it down into the framework stages. So I'll show you these 8 different stages in this Hourglass Framework. They go through acquisition through retention, and the role of email in the acquisition stages and also in the retention stages. Email is the main channel for retention, although there's also SMS and WhatsApp and the break mail and probably traditional media. But really, email is the main digital channel when it comes to retaining your customers. I'll show you how I define segments within those frameworks. I'll tell you how we set goals and expectations for those segments so that you know exactly what to optimize for, because what you don't measure, you can't really improve. And I'll give you ready-to-use strategies and tactics, and I'll show you how we leverage AI to increase, looking into the data to make sure that we are maximizing across all different metrics. And throughout all of these examples, I have put just examples and case studies of stores anywhere between doing 10 million a year to 100 million a year plus. So all of these are real examples. So the problem with logic, in the words of Rory is the vice chairman of Ogilvy. The problem with logic is that he gets to the same place as their competitors. He's a wonderful fellow, so anyone who knows Rory knows that he's one of the most brilliant minds in marketing. And this is the real main challenge. If you rely on discounts and Black Friday for your email results, it's time to really rethink. It's time to change it. It's not how email is built, and it's a race to the bottom. And this. Cool. Now let's get into it. This is how I actually really discovered this, and a lot of people resonate with this. If anyone posts on LinkedIn, you know that getting a million impressions on LinkedIn is like hitting a home run. And then suddenly people started talking about this and reposting and sharing. So I knew that there is something bigger to this and that people were interested. So I won't read through the entire thing, but this is how I essentially discovered that post. And I've applied it since then with brands, like being sponsored by Mike Tyson here in Japan. We have Monica Blunder, we have Joe Rogan here with Karen Borsnax, Rose with host Cintra AI. So it actually applies through to software as well, but we've been using it across different verticals in the DTC space. These are like the 8 different stages. So people go, pretty much everyone knows of funnels, thanks to Russell Brunson really, because he popularized it through his software. But what most people really think about email is that it's this bottom stage, and I argue that it's actually the beginning just of something a lot more beautiful and a lot more complex as well. So the benefits of the Hourglass is that it's going to help you grow your lifetime revenue. It's going to decrease the cost of acquisition. We're going to help you personalize at scale. So as you're growing your ads, you're also going to be progressively personalizing. We're going to capture lost profits of people that are not anymore engaged, and we're going to help you also with your organic expansion. Let's dive into it. This is the first stage, the no, in the segment. It's a very obvious slide, I'm pretty well aware of it, but it has all of it in one place. So the goal of the no stage is to increase your sign-up rate. And as simple as that sounds, a lot of people just click on testing their pop-up form. So this is very basic because just by capturing more of the traffic that already comes to your website, you are, based on your metrics, growing your revenue. And this is a bunch of tests that you can try. From testing your offer to images, to having logos, to timers, to different steps, to having commitment steps, to having a mystery offer versus a revealed offer, to having traffic-specific offers. The goal is to gradually get to at least 10% of your traffic. You see that we can go up to 20% depending on the tool and the setup of and how aggressive the pop-up is, and also the type of business. I see a lot of people just not testing, and it's essentially how a lot of people just leave money on the table. And then the second biggest mistake is people not doing an enrichment. So Alia is the tool that I'm not really paid to promote, but we found a lot of results after starting to use them. And the way that they cracked the space is very similar to Amped, who got acquired, is through just doing a bit of additional self-profiling and a more interactive form. So what that typically looks like is this. We've seen across betting, to technology, to books, and obviously to apparel as well. Instead of saying, do you want an offer, you say, why do you want the offer for who you are? And this is essentially the cookieless world. So this is how people self-profile themselves when they sign up to the form. And it's our almost duty to personalize their experience. Because what a lot of people get after they sign up is the same email in almost all of the cases. And we try to argue that if you can push whatever people are coming forward, then that increases the conversion rate of your welcome. And then this is an example. So let's say, I'm going to give you an example of a store. So let's say that they had 300,000 sessions a month. This is their traffic. Let's say the daily was about $100, and we get 10% of the leads to convert to the email. Well, you can just see the simple maths. If you convert just 5% of the traffic, that really means that just that change of the people who are leads coming to the brand is resulting in 1.8 million. But if you double your traffic, that goes immediately to 3.6. And if you go to 15% and beyond, that would mean 5.4 million. So suddenly, just by doing a rigorous testing of your form, you can find multiple millions of increased revenue, which is really easy. It's just changing literally the image. It takes 3 seconds to change an image, and you can find 2, 3, 4, 5% increases, just because something resonates more. One tactic that I didn't really include here that I think is very valuable is to do it in seasonal images and messages. So whichever season it is, make sure that the pop-up actually changes in terms of the picture that is there, the messaging, the offer, and true scarcity is the best edge that you can have in a pop-up, because if something is actually expiring, whether it's been promotion, some sort of an election, you can leverage that straight away. Next is the stage of the like. The like stage is when we are now personalizing the welcome flow. We are gonna also build the remainder of the flows and I'll talk to them about it. But the first thing that we are doing is making sure that in the form that we collected, from the website, we're using that information to enrich to people. And it's moving very quickly. In this particular case study, we saw people converting up to 20% in their first email, and then we sent 4 or 5 more emails to convert further, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5% of the people. So this is a very easy win. The only thing that we really did there was change the text block and the products, like 3 or 4 products that we were showing underneath, and that really just tripled the conversion of the emails. So it's an easy win. The next thing, obviously, is building the pre-purchase acquisition flows. Most of the people know the playbook because I think in the DTC space, the playbook for email has been pretty much the same in terms of the flows. Everyone knows that you need to have an abandoned cart and an abandoned checkout. You need to have a price abandonment. Some people are sleeping on the site abandonment. I want to bring here the copy that we use. This was one of the biggest unlocks of email last year, because it captures a lot more events. So the only change that we really did with the copy is cloning the flow and then making sure that people who receive the normal flows don't receive the abstractified flows, and vice versa. And the reason for that is that Klaviyo's cookie expires after 7 days, meaning all of your flows that you're going to build are going to expire after 7 days in terms of tracking. And if you're not sending regularly emails, you're basically just building all of that work and having it stay there because it's not going to anyone over the engaged in the last 7 days. And that's why tracking is really important. There's a few additional flows that not all people know, like category abandonment, search abandonment, and also low inventory alerts and price drops and back in stock. This can also be in the post-purchase phase, but I'm throwing them here because you effectively can remarket to everyone depending on the stage of the website that they are. And the goal here really is to remarket to people just based on when they drop those. So because people are going to come and they're going to stop at every single stage, you're going to have multiple drop-offs based on the purchase activity. So by starting with the main ones and then gradually building into them, you are optimizing for the entire behavior where you're remarketing, and that's what actually is dropping the costs of Meta. So this is an example. It's a mock-up of hymns. We created, like my team and I created these hymns. So this is just to show you what we would do differently. So say that a random 28-year-old person was exploring how not to lose his hair and look great on his wedding. And, like, you go to him do all of this amazing quiz personalization that is happening on the website. And you get an email that doesn't look like this. You just get an email saying, hey, thanks for joining. But even if you say, this is our story, does that really help me? It's very easy to actually do these dynamic variables with age, hair type, stress. You just plug in the properties that you just collected in the pool. And obviously you can collect multiple properties. So by personalizing to people and also having a dynamic bestseller block, in this case it's pre-built, so you don't even need to do all those changes. You can have already your improvements, and this is really low effort, but it's already taking that the next step because nobody, and I said nobody, I'm auditing accounts every single week. I think in the last 5 or 6 months I've audited probably over 200 accounts. The amount of accounts that I've seen doing actual personalization in the welcome flow were 3. So this is a tactic number 2. Well, it wasn't expected because they're here, like, it's very aggressive. But like, you sign up to the email, 1 hour later you get another email. So we are sending multiple emails, but we are using different formats. So instead of like trying to do everything in the first email, we give people what they came. We tell them, like, here's your offer, like this is perfect. And underneath we have a few collections only, so I've got that part of the email. But 1 hour later we say, hey, this is Jen and Lisa, the co-founders. Since like we've been here, we are building a company for you. And this is the anatomy of a plain text and how we structure it. So plain text, just as a really small insert here, are a cheat code for anyone who is in any industry. A lot of people think that just because fashion, for example, is very visual, very creative, you can't really use plain text. But I will argue that even like based on the results that you saw in the previous slide, we were doing about 2 to 3% immediately after the first email that was going out, just by sending a text message. What this does is a few different things. The first one is that it helps with deliverability. The second thing is that it breaks the pattern. The third thing is that it actually makes people read. And if you think about it from Gmail's perspective, their clients, all of us, pretty much all of them, maybe some people who are still on Yahoo, but most of us being on Gmail want to have the best customer experience. And that means that we want to read the emails. We don't want to be promoted. We want to get some sort of a one-on-one interaction. So when you send this, This goes so much further in terms of deliverability for you, and you get someone's attention knowing that, hey, this is actually a brand with real people sending messages. It's not just someone like being paid, I don't know, overseas, maybe $5 an hour to send me the latest images of the products that someone launched. We start with a personalization. We go with the founders, so we introduce ourselves, and then we go into a story mode. We tend to use the problem agility solution, which is the most famous copywriting work, and we say, this is what was wrong with the market, and this is how our product fits here. We try to throw in hyperlinks sporadically so that people can, so basically you can get the click, because the click is what the email is selling, not the revenue. People need to go to the website in order to purchase, not vice versa. Yet it's been coming for many years that people would be able to purchase in the emails, and the technology technically is there, but nobody's using it because it alienates the other email clients. So we go through this framework for literally any vertical. And then we would say, this is how our solution came into the market, and this is what we're happy with what we're doing. We incentivize a reply. So this is another tactic within all of these tactics. We want people to reply. Like, you might notice that I'm not pushing people to the sale. I'm saying, tell me your story. Here is our story. We're trying to build some sort of a relationship, and we do this in the post-purchase, in the welcome flow, we do it in the abandoned cart. We send sporadically this plain text in almost 40 to 60 or 70 to 30, depending on the brand, way and split, so that we can get people replying and engaging to us. Because here's what's happened. If you send an email to someone and someone sends an email back, that email is not going to the promotions folder, which is huge. Like, you just get 3 times more views for the same email, which again makes you more profitable. And then we say, we give a signature, and there's 2 elements that, if there's email marketers here, we'll probably steal. And that is that we have a PS section that has a dynamic date. So we basically say, you have a discount, but that's valid only for the next 3 days, being December 12th. So this is going to be dynamic, and it's quite cool to throw that into the email, because it creates even more scarcity and makes it seem like a person went and wrote that email, which is what everyone would think that happened. Cool, so that's useful. Anyone found it useful? Okay, I said useful presentation, so I'm glad that it's been helpful so far. So here's a case study. This is just a welcome flow of any brand. Like, it's not the same of what we saw before. This is a 12-month period. You see, it's like pretty much like July to July. And we applied this framework to that flow. The tool that we're using is called Hero Analytics. And in that period, we almost did 1 million more in revenue, 831,000. If I don't being specific to the details, by using the same flow. It was the same flow with adding these additional emails and these additional variables, and we increased basically without adding more emails, but by adding also a bit more traffic, we increased the actual revenue, which you can see at the bottom as well, based on the revenue per recipient between the 2. Cool. Trust stage. This is when we tried everything. We tried to personalize in the welcome flow. We have all of the additional flows. We already built out our entire pre-purchase flows infrastructure. People are coming to the website. They're hitting with their product. They're being hit with their searches, with their carts, with all kinds of messages, plain text, dynamic, and they still don't purchase. And we've hidden here day 0, because that's when the majority of people purchase. But this is the real trajectory of when your leads are going to purchase. And every single day after the first 14 or so, maybe even for the first 7 days, is going down in likelihood of someone purchasing. Meaning, if you message people beyond the 30-day window of engagement, chances are that that's going to do a few bad things for you. It's going to ruin your deliverability. That deliverability is then going to affect your customer revenue, because that's where the majority of those purchases are going to be coming in your campaigns. But then also, you're going to be paying for people who are probably never going to purchase. As much as that sucks to hear, we found that there are a few flows that we throw in, but for the most part, we don't really message the leads that subscribe to the list after the first 30 days. We will try direct mail, and we will try to hit them again with ads after a certain window of time, other than the flows. But for the most part, we isolate the leads and we start sending them campaigns. And the goal here is to convert as many of those remaining leads as possible. And even if it's like a small increase of 500K, you can still find some incremental gains. And the metric that I've positioned here is that you should be hitting about 1% of leads click rate in your campaigns. That is going to vary based on your engagement window and who you're sending to. Typically, if you look into the segment breakdown of your segments and who you're sending, you will see that your customers are going to be having twice, 3 times higher click. But the goal is to balance between leads and customers and who you're sending to, so that you stay in a healthy relationship and reputation while being able to message the most amount of people that are engaged in the shortest amount of time. Some tips, immediate ones, 3 to 5 times a week is a must. Anyone doing less is just not doing enough. I've seen brands doing way more than this. During special days, we might even send 2 to 3 the same day, in a little bit, of course, more segmented and isolated way. But one of the first reasons, one of the easiest ways to do more emails is just by sending more emails, and people won't hate you for it, so long that you actually send relative good and relevant content to people. And I will show you now a few more things to test and to do. So this is the content marketing matrix. Transparently, this is relevant for organic as well and for your other channels, but we try to send as much content and be relevant to people in the educate, inspire, entertain stages to about 80% of the content, and then 20% will be our convince part, meaning we are asking for a sale. So in the entertain stage, you see that we're using quizzes and virals and games and videos and competitors. So we are just trying to get people to pay attention to us. In the inspire stage, we are putting people of influence, like celebrities. We will show the forums, the reviews. So we want to build ourselves up in terms of being the leader for people. In the educate space, we are doing all of our blog articles and education comparisons. So again, all that this is the thing that is right for them. And then obviously into the convince stage, that's when we're doing products and case studies and sort of interaction or showing people using the product. Great, so this is 30 A/B tests that I recommend doing, split across strategies, subject lines, front reviews, content structure, and visual creative. We found almost 50% more tools revenue within 2 months just by testing all of these things. If you take this test and run them through all of your campaigns and posts, and you run at least 10 times the same test so that you have enough data, you can potentially have a full year of testing strategy just in this particular slide. So this can help you find what works for your brand, build it into the rest of the channels, and then start elevating that across the board. So I won't read through all of them, but you should definitely focus on some of these tests that are easy wins. For example, the send time, probably all the strategy is one of the main ones in terms of a day. Typically, we found that towards the end of the week, we do a little bit more sales, especially Wednesday onwards. With the subject line, you can experiment with questions versus statements. With the from name and preview, this is a really cool tactic. You can use the from name as a subject line. That's going to make your subject line look massive, and it's going to stand out into the inbox. So that's a cool trick that we found. Also your from names and including the founder and brand. The content structure, you can use plain text versus HTML, and sometimes you might even use it for the same email. So you might send it to whatever is a launch and then try to do it in 2 different formats and see what wins. Resend to the opener as the winner, and then find essentially more revenue in that campaign. And then do gifts and statics again into the same campaigns. All of this is more work. That is the hard truth. This is where things start taking up more time. But it's also where you find the incremental gains. So that's the test. And then also here are 10 full margin campaigns that you can use, because as I was speaking earlier against the discounts, I've created this little QR code. It's going to give you 150 templates that you can basically steal in place. They are on Figma, so there's a bit of a learning curve if you're not on Figma. But all of these designs are pre-made, and you can take the template. Here are 10 that we've seen working very well. If you focus just on one benefit, you're going to find a lot of wins because you're reducing the cognitive load for people. How it's made is a process demonstration, maybe behind the scenes, showing the actual manufacturing of a product. And that, for some people, particularly for example in the health space, is very useful because a lot of people, especially with gut problems, care about the ingredients and how they're mixed and what really goes, so rather than what doesn't go in there. So overall, this can go a very long way. Back in stock emails, very simple. You can send a back in stock email without having a back in stock product as a little trick. Testimonials, trending now, us versus them, myths versus facts, not from the founders, new, and all of these are campaigns that you can be sending to people and cashing in without having to discount. And then a few examples here. One of the things that I really like doing is throwing a bunch of logos, and that's recently we found that works really well. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what the rest of the content is, so long that you actually just show validation from people. In fashion in particular, one of the best things that we found is just showing the colors of a particular product. It goes a very long way because some people have preferences. And then also in the Guitar Institute here, these are the different stages of who you are as a person, so some sort of a self-identification within the campaign goes a very, very long way. And then this is a case study. So a bunch of numbers, all of them green, most of them, some direct ones, don't pay attention to them. Like basically, this is how we found within the campaigns, particularly in the first purchase towards like the left bottom. In this particular case, about 20% year over year. But the main difference was just sending 264 campaigns versus 176 of the previous year. So even if you just send more campaigns, if you take one thing off today, it's probably going to be 2% more campaigns and just 10 more. Then the try stage, this is when all that we need to do is focus on the front-end offer. You need to figure out what really is the best front-end offer for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the best front-end offer for a customer, but the goal is really to maximize for a type of behavior. So we are trying to understand what is going to be the LTV based on a product. And you see that gradually we are moving towards now maximizing revenue per customer rather than just channeling all this engagement and traffic. So with the try stage, we're still in our little rabbits. They're still like jumping in and out. They don't really know if they should purchase. And we are now like trying to even make it simpler for them. We are trying to say, this is what works for you. A little hint over the next slide. What we tested, for example, with this betting company was that even though a lot more people like the $15 off offer, which is on the left, the offer that worked the best for us was doing a freebie. The value of a freebie for people is actually higher, and it's cheaper for you as a brand. So freebies are one of the best ways to get higher conversion through the offers, while also retaining a better margin. And then on the right, the second tactic is really splitting your flows into into leads and customers. A lot of people have the same structure for all the people that will go through an abandoned cart. So just by excluding the offer, using the same creative where you exclude the offer that you are doing for your leads, is going to help you with your margin. In this case, we basically send the exact same email between the two brands. And you see that the click rate is lower, the conversion is a little bit higher because we were in the returning customers, but the revenue is actually higher by $600, even though it went to twice less people. So just because we did a discount here on the left, that didn't necessarily mean that it was the best thing for the business. And then this is the front-end offer. So again, in Hero, Lifetime Clearly has this. Pretty much what you can do is you need to isolate your best behavior. Your 365 days LTV will vary based on the first front-end product that you're showing. So you see that even though here we have a product that is doing 474 orders in the last 12 months as the first product, it's not the best one, but then we start thinking about what does that mean in terms of the amount of customers by that lifetime value. And it's going to vary on case-by-case basis, but we are optimizing again for behavior. This is just an example of that. TLDR, at the bottom left, you see that we are decreasing the time between orders, but we are also increasing the overall conversion. On the left, you see the percentage of all of the customers that we have on Klaviyo. So this is the people who are subscribing through the checkout, through the pop-up form. But then on the right, you see the attribution. Generally, we are trying to figure out how are we growing the attribution of leads who are converting here, and then some results. The buy stage, very simple. You onboard people, you try to sell them upfront immediately because we're trying to maximize the AOV. A lot of them are not going to come back. And this may seem counterintuitive, but this is where I actually throw in a discount or some sort of an offer. I want people to purchase straight away and tell them, hey, you just purchased, that was amazing. Why don't you have something else? Here's like something from us because it's your first time, because first time order. Just that simple tactic has added tens of thousands for like different brands on an annual basis, because now that someone purchased, you know that they're not really necessarily coming back for the purchase, so might as well just throw them something here, throw them a bond, and see them coming back. You're setting up your post-purchase flows, your loyalty program, mobile, SMS, transactional, and your upsells and cross-sells. And I'll go through them in a second. We onboard them with this structure. A welcome flow, 5 minutes later, again, this is the structure from before. We send, hey, like this is Susan from the customer support, so it's your first time here. These products go really well with what you just bought. So why don't you get this? $30,000 in revenue over a year just by adding that particular email, and people generally complain, which is the biggest thing because a lot of people are afraid of that. Then we go into here's how you start it up. Then you do here's how you go into our community, and then we decide what is most important to us. So this is when you're gonna need to do the homework of what makes most sense for your business. Is loyalty subscriptions? Is it SMS as a program? And then we decide to prioritize it based on that criteria. In the upsell and cross sales, what all that you need to do is find out what is the exact time between different orders and set that up for people, and then gradually start testing backwards in terms of trying to decrease your time between orders. And also you want to understand what is the type of behavior. Now, for most of the brands, what I've seen working the most is that, especially in fashion, to be fair, most of the people buy the same thing in a different color. It's a very easy save. You just tell them, why don't you get 2 or 3? And you can bundle it and save some more money. So by understanding what people buy, you set up your cross-sell flow to sell to people essentially what they just bought again. And again, this is you splitting the data and understanding what someone is getting. And then selling them more of the same thing. You don't have to engineer it here for behavior. You're already observing behavior and replicating it with a message to push those extra 5-10% people. Some examples: if you're in supplements, 6 to 8 a.m. this is what you take. 8 to 10 a.m. 12 to 6. You just want to start fitting into people's life. If you just bought this workout session, why don't you get our workout program? If you just bought this bra, like here's like non-stop picks into bras. And if you're into like working out and maximizing your performance, here's the why, what, how of the different products. So all that we're trying to do here is start fitting into people's lives. And then gradually what you will see is that you're increasing your rotation, like percentage of people purchasing relatively quickly. These are some of the benchmarks that you can go after. At top stage, a refund flow, replenishment, subscriptions, updates, bundler, and paid memberships. All of that we are trying to do here is make sure that we stick, because now people are really starting to use the product. They purchase probably again of all the previous strategies that we did, and we are trying to keep them here. A refund flow is a very easy fix, which is going to help you understand also who's staying into the brand. Something such as like, not every product is a match, a second chance, into our brand, and cost for a reason. There's multiple ways to have people stay into the brand, and just because they refunded something, that doesn't mean that it was it wasn't the right thing. Some engineering in terms of what to prioritize. Again, this is the same graphic with different priorities. If you have a subscription program, do people churn after 1 month? Yes, no. Well, if they don't, then that's great. Like, find exactly when they churn. Do we need to prioritize retention, or do we want to prioritize cash flow? If they do churn, what do we want to? We need to test the front-end offer, and if they do decide to stay and purchase with us, we keep on testing the gift offers. So gradually, obviously, the rule here is testing. And then this is a paid membership program that I absolutely love by Carnivore Snacks. It costs $59 a year. It's essentially the Amazon Prime of Carnivore Snacks. A lot of people think that the loyalty programs membership, they have to be something free that you throw in points for people. That's not really the case. If you can get exclusivity, that's kind of like the new way to do loyalty. So you would get people events. You would give them exclusive perks, like 5% cashback. You would give them early access to products. You would give them some sort of incentives to refer and earn, so that they can be really just like a bigger part of this brand. And now this experience is something that you're tailoring to people who works for you. But it's very different to just keep on sending the same campaigns for everyone. And then I'm showing, if you have, let's say, even 20% of your revenue, this is, potentially $270,000 every single month that at the beginning of the month that are coming for you, just because you have 1,000 customers spending $100 a month.
I'm gonna have to cut you off, man.
All right.
What's the best thing left that you need somebody to say?
Okay, I'll get it through this one. Understanding RFM is probably gonna give you the most in terms of uplift. A few things. Find out the best customers and segment them out into 3 times average order value, 3 times more revenue as a whole, and recent purchases. All that you would need to do with them is just keep them happy. You have like baby whales. Those people are like the ones that you need to just push the free thing with something that you bought, free perks again. And all that we are doing here is trying to get them to purchase more frequently. People who purchase frequently, you're trying to grow their revenues to say spend over a certain amount and get a gift. With the people who used to be frequent buyers, you try to get them back by saying, hey, like there's 25 customers, there's $25 voucher waiting for you. Once you're ready, credit store we've loaded for you. And then also with the lost at sea, the same ideas, plus see how we've improved, we've changed the type of messaging.
So how often are you updating flows from what you've designed, right? So the structure, the ecosystem of the framework exists, but you want to maybe update creative on a X amount of cadence. How often are you updating the creative for brands? 6 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? Is it once a quarter? What's best practice for you?
Cool. So when you say that, do you mean updating the creative from scratch, like all of the copy, all of the design, or doing
Yep.
this? So we test weekly. Let's start with that. We would do some sort of like all of the flows are being tests all the time, meaning all of your abandoned work in process is being tested all the time with micro improvements. If for a very long time that doesn't work, then we will go with the new design. If the product was changed, if there's like specific new products, if there's some sort of seasonality to the products, meaning if something is relevant in the summer and you show those products, but now it's winter, we will change that. So gradually, what we are doing is like we are updating all of the flows pretty much like once a year to once a 6 months, but we are looking into incrementality so that we can go additional in.
I think that's important because I know everybody just saw a lot of segmentation, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of things. Trying to think for yourself, how often can you update the flows, live in a bubble that you can implement, but obviously this shows you the upside of how deep you can go down the rabbit hole. So appreciate you, everybody, thought about the training.